If the video of Ahmaud Arbery never leaked online, there's a real possibility the men who chased him down would still be free today.
When I seen him when I ran to the corner right there, it was almost like the black guy was tired of running. Tell me, what did you...
Before the footage surfaced, this case barely moved. No national outrage, no nonstop media cycle, and no federal convictions. Then, suddenly, millions of people were watching it all at once. A black man running through a suburban street, white men with guns chasing him in pickup trucks. And the disturbing part is, nobody looks emotionally out of control. They actually look calm and certain, like they genuinely believe they have a right to stop him.
They got down to the end down there somewhere. I must have passed him because I pulled out of my driveway. Was going to try to block him. Right.
Because the other night, the guy stuck his hand in his pants. And so I grabbed my .37 Magnum.
Take a breath. Okay.
I want to run right.
I got you. So
This just doesn't look good. I mean, it just shot me.
The timing of the murder of Ahmaud Arbery changed everything, because this footage exploded during one of the most emotionally unstable periods modern America had experienced in years. The country was already overwhelmed by the George Floyd protests, nonstop political tension, viral confrontations, violence, and authority. Every week seemed to produce another emotionally charged video that millions of people immediately interpreted through fear, anger, or ideology. Then suddenly, another clip appears online, and the imagery immediately hits something deeper psychologically. A black man running through a quiet suburban neighborhood while armed white men chase him in pickup trucks, genuinely believing this was a normal interaction. And that's why this footage spread so explosively, not because it felt cinematic by any means, but because it was historically familiar. The streets are quiet, the men appear calm. Nobody involved looks emotionally shocked by what's happening. What somehow makes this footage even more disturbing, because once millions of people watched those images, the case stopped functioning like local Georgia shooting and became more emotionally symbolic almost overnight. The thing is, people were no longer reacting only to the evidence itself. Now they were reacting through history, fear, identity, humiliation, and years of emotional tension that were already building underneath the country. And once a case becomes symbolic enough, it stops belonging entirely to the courtroom. And that's what made the footage psychologically different. It almost didn't feel modern. It felt older than social media itself. A black man running, armed white men chasing him through a neighborhood. And the imagery instantly connected people emotionally to vigilantism, racial violence, and historical memory. But the strangest part is, nothing about this footage feels theatrical. It's like nobody acts like they're inside a historic moment. It just feels ordinary. And ordinary behavior is way scarier than obvious evil, because people can drift into horrifying situations while still emotionally believing they're completely reasonable. While some people saw racial violence and vigilantism, others saw crime suspicion, citizens arrest, and self-defense. Same footage, completely different emotional realities. And social media hardens those interpretations instantly. People stop discussing facts calmly. Now they're emotionally charged, choosing sides. And once millions of people emotionally attach themselves to a narrative, backing away becomes almost impossible. One reason the case became so controversial was because Georgia still had an old citizens arrest law at the time, which raised a disturbing question. Did these men genuinely believe they had the authority to chase and detain him? That law was later repealed, but the psychological shift was already visible. Because once ordinary people begin emotionally mixing suspicion with authority, they can start rationalizing almost anything, especially once they stop seeing themselves as civilians and more like protectors. And you can actually feel the moment that shift happens.
The guy turns and comes at him. And they start wrestling, and Travis shoots him right in the chest.
So we run out to stop him to talk to him. He took off running. Stopped. He come out of the truck running at us. I told him stop till he hit me. I had nothing to do.
That's still the most haunting part of the footage, because no one looks truly insane. They look like ordinary men who fully convinced themselves they were justified. And history is filled with people doing terrible things while internally narrating themselves as reasonable, necessary, or protective. And that's what makes certainty dangerous, especially armed certainty. Because once somebody starts seeing another person less like a human being and more like a threat they're entitled to control, the emotional reality changes completely. And eventually, the protests faded, hashtags disappeared. But the men involved entered a completely different reality afterwards: Georgia Diagnostic and Classification Prison. And online, people openly celebrated the idea of them going there. Jokes about prison violence spread everywhere. Some people didn't even want justice anymore, they wanted revenge. And by the time the trial arrived, many people believed if these guys walk free, parts of America could erupt again. Because symbolic cases stopped belonging only to the courtroom. Now they become emotionally tied to things like history, race, identity, and anger. And the deeper tension underneath the murder of Ahmaud Arbery may be what happens when ordinary people slowly begin emotionally acting like unofficial authority figures. Because once fear, territory, suspicion, and certainty combine together, people can begin rationalizing behavior that would normally feel impossible. And that's what makes the footage so disturbing years later. The transition just happened so fast. A group of ordinary men go from watching, following someone, confronting them, and then trying to control where they go, while still emotionally believing they are the reasonable ones. The fatal detail may not have been the shotgun. It may have been the moment the men chasing Ahmaud Arbery stopped seeing themselves as neighbors watching something suspicious to people entitled to enforce order. Because once that psychological shift happens, the entire situation changes. Now it's no longer observational, it's control. And that's what made this footage so disturbing to millions of people. That nobody looked emotionally out of control. They actually looked certain. Like they genuinely believed they were the reasonable ones, which forces an uncomfortable realization. History doesn't always repeat itself through obvious monsters. Sometimes, it repeats itself through ordinary people who slowly convince themselves they have the right to control other human beings.